welcome into Cross My Heart Ministry. I'm Laura McFarland, and it is almost March. I think we blinked and February just zoomed right on by. I can hardly believe how quickly time is passing, but if you're like me, you're ready to be finished with the winter weather and to welcome spring. And so as the months pass by here at Cross My Heart, it means it's time to present our new Do It list for the month of March. And so this is our monthly free download. You can follow the link below to find it and print your very own copy. I want to thank those of you who give us such sweet feedback about what a blessing this little handy dandy tool is for you. And if you haven't given it a try yet, maybe this is the month to go ahead and print it and just see if it would work for you. You know, there's lots of planners out there, lots of tools to help us get organized. That's the great thing about the World Wide Web. You can do www and find all sorts of things to buy, things that are free. But I think one of the greatest helpful attributes of this particular planner, or Do It list as we call it here at Cross My Heart, is that it's all on one page. It just makes it super duper easy. We have 3 sections. We've got the daily Do It list with little boxes to check for each day of the month. We've got a weekly checklist with four columns because there's one for each day of the month. And then we've got our monthly checklist, and we change those out seasonally. So if you haven't given it a try, go ahead and print it, and you will find, if you try to be faithful to doing this, that over the course of time, your house will gradually become more clean and more tidy. And as we like to say here across my heart, it's not about having a clean house or even a tidy house. Those are just a means to an end. And the end is having a home where you can think and you can plan and you can welcome and you can love on those in your world. Sometimes the clutter and the disarray prevents us from welcoming people in, from loving our families well, and it can just be such a mental distraction that we just can't concentrate and we just feel under that pile. And so this is intended to help you get out from under the pile day by day, little by little. I never liked having a one day a week, do it all, clean it all. I wouldn't even want to get out of bed on Tuesday if that was clean the house day. But if we just do a little bit each day, we can sort of stay on top of that. You'll also notice that in the very center of the Do It list, there's a Bible verse. And that always coordinates with our Write the Word bookmark. So we like to call this our Mary Heart, Martha Home approach to life. Mary, as we know, sat at the feet of Jesus. Those were those 2 sisters from Bethany where Jesus liked to stop and visit them and their brother Lazarus, and I've always loved that story. And so Mary was sitting at the feet of Jesus, and we need to be Marys. We need to be women who abide in the Word of God, open our Bibles every day. And if you've had just a hard time getting started, or if you're in between Bible studies, this might be a way to make that happen. We choose a different word each month, and then we have, depending upon the month, 30 or 31 verses, one verse that has that word in it for each day of the month. And this month our word is blessed. So what a great word to launch spring, to launch your new study, but to start with the word blessed. And we're going to have verses from Old and New Testament all throughout the Bible. Get you a journal, just look up that one verse, write that one verse out, and then perhaps just pray over it. Ask the Holy Spirit to reveal some truth for you from that verse, and I think you'll just find your whole heart and your mindset changed for the rest of that day as you meditate on that verse. You also notice that when you follow the download in the link below and print this, you'll get 2 copies because it's a bookmark and you just need half the page. So share one with a friend. Maybe the 2 of you could meet for coffee once a week and just look one another in the eye and say, what was your verse this week? Of all the verses you wrote, which was the one that touched your heart? Well, if you print our bookmark and you print our Do It list, you will have a Mary Heart and you'll have a Martha Home. Now, each month when we present the new Do It list, I like to zero in on one item on the list. And sometimes I choose something from the daily list, sometimes the weekly, sometimes the monthly. And today I want to zero in on an item that's on our Do It for the week, and that is plan next week's meals. Now, some of us don't plan even tomorrow's meals. We're just kind of in a mode of life being full and busy, and you just sort of open up the refrigerator, hope there's leftovers, or it's 4 o'clock and you haven't even thought about what you're going to plan. There's food in the freezer, you didn't defrost it. Let's just go pick up a pizza, and so it goes. When we fail to plan, we usually end up spending more money than we should, and we may end up eating something that's not really healthy or very good for us. And so with just a little bit of planning, you can begin to get on top of that. And so I want to share another free download this week that's called the Weekly Dinner Menu. And so we've just set this up with only dinners. I didn't want to get too complicated. I know there's lots of planners out there that help you plan breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but we're going to do this with baby steps. And so you're just going to plan 7 dinners for next week, and then you're going to make your shopping list. When you plan those 7 dinners, go ahead and check your cupboard and your freezer, see what you have on hand. But you're going to just make your menu plan. Maybe you're going to have a leftover night, whatever. But as you print this and then begin to complete it, I've got 8 sort of things to consider as you complete your planning next week's meals little checklist. And if you don't want to print this, of course, just grab a piece of paper and write it out. But it's good just to put it out there and then see where you go. So these are the 8 things I'd like to share with you to help you consider how you can plan next week's meals and be more intentional about what you're serving your family. And number 1, of course, is to begin with dinner. We're not going to look at 21 meals. We're just going to look at 7. So just zero in on what you're going to serve for dinner next week. That's number 1. Number 2 is to check your calendar. And our calendar can really dictate what we end up doing for dinner. If it's a day that's just really full and really busy, then that might be the day that you want to do a quick do-ahead meal. You might want to even prepare something the night before so that all you have to do when you get home is warm that up, or just it's something that may just be able to be baked for 30 minutes or something like that. So look at your calendar. If it's a day that you know you have errands and a dentist appointment, the kids have piano lessons, then don't plan a meal that requires an hour and a half of prep time if you know you're not going to be getting home until almost 5 o'clock and almost dinner time. So check your calendar as you do your meal planning. Number 3, check your pantry and your fridge and your freezer. Sometimes we buy things intending to make a recipe, and then there's that can of cream of chicken soup. It's been there for 3 months. We need to use that up. Or maybe there's some ground beef in your freezer that you stocked away in there planning to do something with. So go ahead and take inventory first of what's in your pantry, what's in your fridge, what's in your freezer, and then look and see what recipes you can make to use up those ingredients, because even things in the freezer and even things that are canned do have a shelf life. We know things in our refrigerator are going to expire quickly, but those other things aren't going to last forever, even though they're in the freezer. So there's nothing worse than, to me, tossing out good food. If you made lasagna and it gets shoved in the back of the fridge and you forgot about leftover lasagna, and then next week you think, oh, how could I have forgotten this? It's just terrible. It's like opening up your wallet and just dumping your money in the trash can. So be sure that you use up the leftovers that are in your fridge first, but also check and see what's in the freezer and what's on your shelf. Number 4 is to check the grocery ads. Now, this is the most economical way to do your meal planning. This is what I did when I was raising my kids. If I was thinking pot roast for Thursday night, but stew meat was on sale, well, we might have stew on Thursday night instead. So you can save a lot of money by looking and see what's on sale, and then plan your meals accordingly. And that goes for the main course as well as the vegetables, the side items you're going to serve. So look and see what's on sale, and maybe that will dictate what you plan for one of your meals. Number 5 is consider doubling up. And I've got my little Pyrex dish here to show you as a little prompt to remind us, if I'm going to make poppy seed chicken or green chili enchiladas or something like that, then why not just go ahead and double that recipe? And we'll put links below to a couple of recipes probably that I've done for a Martha Monday that would be great for doubling up when you freeze. And so when you double up, you can just go ahead and do just that. Go ahead and spray 2 pans instead of 1. Get everything in here. Be sure and label the top of it what it is so you don't forget, and maybe even put the instructions on there. So that is just a great way to have something ready to go in the freezer already. And then if you it might not even make it to the freezer. If it's a night that you're taking a meal to a new mom, for example, who's just had a baby, or you have a friend that had a death in her family and you would like to take a meal over to them. Well, oftentimes what we end up doing is we make this fabulous meal for our friend, and then we could pick up a pizza on the way home for our family. So there's nothing worse for your hubby than to come in the door, smell his favorite meal, and you tell him, sorry, this is not for you. We're taking it to the Joneses and we're having pizza for dinner. Just go ahead and double up and serve your family that night the same thing that you're taking out. So doubling up doesn't take that much longer, and it can be a huge time saver. And there's just something so wonderful about knowing you've got a meal stockpile that you can pull out on those busy days when you have a full day, and you can just put that out to thaw and bake it and have a great meal on that night that it's busy. So consider doubling up. That's number 5. Number 6 is consider your crock pot. And I pulled my crock pot out here to remind you. I replaced my regular crock pot a few years ago with this rock crock from Pampered Chef that I absolutely love. The reason I love it so much is that this handy dandy deal can go onto the stove, and I can brown things here and then throw it right on into my base, and it doubles up as a crock pot. So if it's one of those days again that it's going to be very busy, if you like recipes that you can toss it in here, throw it in here, sort of fix it and forget it, then don't forget about your crock pot. You probably have one back in the back of your pantry or on a shelf tucked away. It's getting dusty. Get that crock pot out and use it. I love my crock pot, and when I was raising my kids, I used it a lot. I'll also share a link below to a recipe that you can make in your crock pot. I think I've got a soup recipe that I've done before in there, and I've got another soup recipe coming up, a recipe for taco soup that I'll be sharing soon that also goes in the crock pot as well. Number 7 is consider Brenner. Now, Brenner is breakfast for dinner, and I'm stealing that phrase from my daughter-in-law, Tori. That's what she calls it. And we did breakfast for dinner lots of times, lots of Sunday nights, actually, when Kevin and I were raising our kids. We never called it Brenner, but we often did breakfast for dinner. It might be scrambled eggs and homemade biscuits and some cut-up strawberries and blueberries. It might be Daddy's homemade waffles, but we often did breakfast for dinner, and especially on a Sunday, if I had put a roast in the oven, we had that big meal at lunchtime, then breakfast for dinner would work. But it also works on a regular weeknight. If I forgot to lay something out and just hadn't planned anything, well, it takes no time at all to scramble some eggs. And if the kids had cereal for breakfast, then eggs for dinner are great, and that gives them some protein. So if you haven't planned anything else, go ahead and drop in Brenner in lieu of dinner for one of your nights. And then number 8 is don't forget the leftovers. Don't want to forget about leftover lasagna, or maybe even the carry-out box that you brought home when you went out to eat a couple of days ago. Be sure and check your fridge. Don't let those leftovers go to waste. And in fact, if you've got a little dib and dab of this, instead of just calling it leftover night, which sounds a little boring, just tell your family that it's buffet night. And that sounds way more highbrow than just leftover night. So it's going to be buffet night, and we're just going to go through the line. I'll put everything out. You pick out what you want, warm it up, and leftover night is easy and affordable and can be a huge, huge blessing. It saves us money and it saves us time. So I hope that those have given you some ideas and maybe inspired you to do some meal planning for your family next week. Hope you'll download our free little planner to help you plan your meals for next week. And then as you plan each of those recipes or figure out what you need, and you check the pantry and check the fridge for what you need, then you can make your little shopping list and you will be good to go. And of course, don't forget to download our Do It list. And I hope you will download our copy of the Write the Word bookmark, and it will inspire you to be a woman of the Word. If you're studying along with us through the book of 2 Kings, please stay tuned this coming Friday as we have our next lesson in our continuing study through that rich book. And if you have not started with us and you would like to do that, go ahead and reach out to us here at Cross My Heart, and we would love to get a book for you to study, 1 Kings and 2 Kings, and you can go back and preview all those videos, watch those videos, and do the study on your own. Well, thanks so much for spending this time with us, and I hope you have a blessed week. For Cross My Heart Ministry, I'm Laura McFarland.